All right, we are started. Tonight our topic, shift myself here a little bit. Our topic is the construction of the Suez Canal, but I think it's going to be a little bit different than what you might be expecting or what I was expecting to give. Um, Obviously, we could start off, it's one of the wonders of the modern world. It's 120 miles through varied terrain, some at different levels, connecting the two seas, the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, and it changed the landscape of the known world at that point. And it is so centrally located. It is right at the corner where Europe, Africa, and Asia come together. And if we think about the history we learned in seventh or eighth grade about the explorers, what were they looking for? They were looking for that quick route to get water route that would get them to the east, to India and to China and Japan. And this was a man-made creation that really accomplished that. Um, it, uh, it took what was a journey of several months down to a couple of weeks. And so, I mean, it just changed things. And a phrase I am going to use a lot because I think it is one of the main themes of tonight is balance of power. In Europe, there was a balance of power. In the world, there was a balance of power. And very few events could shake that. But this one could, depending on who got, one of the key questions for tonight will be who gets control of the canal? Is it a multinational uh, organization that runs it? Is it France that runs it? Is it Egypt that runs it? If one nation gets control of that, it makes them very, very, very powerful. And it's going to be something we will be talking a lot about tonight. What I'm going to do first, though, is I am going to share a document. So we will not see each other for a minute. Just so, and I will put this up periodically. Oh, we got somebody entering. Oh, wait a minute. You admit. And I'm going to unshare for a second so we can see if they got in. Hello, Lauren.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
And I thought somebody else was signing in too. Oh, guess I didn't get them. 1 second here. There we go. Admit. And the Zoom user is in, but is not making themselves visible. All right, I will get us restarted here. Tonight, our topic is the Suez Canal and its construction, but it is a phenomenally incredible feat of engineering in the 19th century. A lot of it was done by hand, no machinery used at all. And they dug through a channel 120 miles long, removing 75 million cubic meters of sand and dirt and rock. Just unbelievable accomplishment in its day. But to me, that's not the main part of the story. I'm going to put back up a document that I wanted to share so that people kind of have an idea of what we're going to be looking at here. We will look at obviously the engineering, incredible engineering accomplishment that was there, but I'm going to give that short shrift. I think we can all just in our own head say, I can't imagine how you start at point A and get to point B. It was amazing. But what I really want to look at is the international politics surrounding the canal, because everybody in Europe, whether you're in France or England or Germany, or whether you were in Russia, or whether you were in the Ottoman Empire, or whether you were in Egypt, you knew if this worked, this was going to change everything. And it could significantly upset the balance of power. And by upset, all I mean is change. Upset depends on your point of view. If you're on top and it lowers your position, well, then you're upset. If you're somebody nearer the bottom and you move up, that's wonderful. And essentially, we're going to find England is opposed to the canal, France is the major supporter of it. Russia is not really concerned about the canal, is more concerned about expanding into Eastern Europe, expanding into the Balkans, expanding to Constantinople, the capital of the Ottoman Empire. And then, of course, Egypt. Egypt has the possibility of becoming preeminent again. In one time history, the Egyptians were the king of the world, and now they're a backwash. They're in terms of world power, they don't have it. As a matter of fact, they are a part of the Ottoman Empire. They have a lot of autonomy, able to act on their own a lot, but ultimately they have to answer to the Sultan. I put down here also the names of a couple of people that we were going to be talking about a lot. Lord Palmerston is going to be leading the opposition to the canal. Louis Napoleon, the nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, will be, he's creating the second empire in Europe, and he will be supporting it. Sultan Abdul Aziz is actually opposed to it because he is afraid that it will increase Egypt's power, and Egypt will actually become completely autonomous and independent. And then there are the three Egyptian leaders during this time who are going to be paying for the canal. One is named, their title is Khedive. So there's Khedive Said, Khedive Ismail, and I don't know how to pronounce the last one, Khedive Taufik. And again, if you're going on the internet trying to look up that last one, it comes with about 4 or 5 different spellings depending on who is doing the writing of the history. And so you might have to look a little before it. Something very important in here is the Ottoman Empire is dying. And as a matter of fact, has been dying for the better part of a century. And it only stays together as an empire because the other European empires prop it up. And that is a bizarre question. Why would they do that? And that is going to be a major part of our discussion tonight. And finally, there is the corvée. This has to be built, the pyramids weren't built by the pharaohs. I left probably the most important name out of this here, Ferdinand de Lesseps. He is the man who actually is the man with the vision and the plan, and works for 20 years to get the canal built. But again, he didn't build the canal. There was a labor supply provided by the Egyptians. And it was at various times anywhere between 20,000 and 60,000. So it was a large labor force. And then we are going to, again, anybody who's been attending my history forums knows the theme of European colonialism is at play here. As a matter of fact, I think it's the most important theme here. That question of who is going to control the canal? Well, the colonial powers are not going to let it be Egypt. That is, that's not even giving something away. That's obvious. And then we'll look at its legacy. All right, I will probably put this up later again, but I wanted people to have something to refer to so that if we get confused, we know where we are, and it'll help me too. Instead of just rambling, I will get to where I need to get. Paul, didn't see you there. Good to see you.
Oh, it's good to see you. It's good to see everybody.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, Jean.
All right. Rosanna will not make it tonight. She has other plans. At any rate,
Hi, Margie.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
I'm going to give short shrift to the amazing job that was done in creating this. But I can give you a kind of a overview, a very quick one. It's 120 miles long. It's connecting 2 seas, the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. And the problem is they're not at the same level. And the second problem is one is freshwater and one is saltwater. And then as you dig through the terrain, you are dealing with the problems in front of you. And over 120 miles, the terrain is going to change a dozen times. What kind of sand, what kind of soil, what kind of rocks, everything is going to change. And in each case, you have to stop and say, wait a minute, what we were just doing that worked in this piece of building the canal will not work in the next one. We have to sit back with our engineers and decide, wait, on the fly, because you don't know the problems are coming until you encounter them. And then all of a sudden you have to say, wait a minute, new conditions, what do we need to do? How do we have to do this differently? And, it's stunning that, because it was a constant running into new problems, new issues that you had no idea that you were going to be running into until you ran into them. And they had to get it in and get financing for it. And it was just an incredible ordeal. And Ferdinand de Lesseps was a stunningly amazing individual. He worked for 20 years to get this done. And he wasn't just, he assembled engineers. He drew up plans. He got a labor force. Then he had to deal with the politics of the day, and he was constantly shuttling. It sounds like Henry Kissinger, shuttle diplomacy. He was constantly going to Paris, to London, to Constantinople, back to Cairo, and trying to assuage hurt feelings and trying to untangle rivalries and oppositions and fights that were going on. And at the same time, he had to raise what in today's money would be $100 million. I mean, today, when we build things for $100 million, we don't think about it. As a matter of fact, they did a repair about a dozen years ago on the Suez Canal, and it costs something like $6 billion to do the repair.
Wow.
So yeah, nobody had thought in terms of a budget this large, and he got it all together. That's amazing. Congratulations, but we're leaving that behind. What we're going to do is deal with the politics. And again, how do you get England and France and Constantinople and Cairo on the same page? And the answer is you don't. You juggle balls in the air, you put out fires, you keep it just so you can get it done. And again, the key man here was a man named Ferdinand de Lesseps. And what he did was nothing short of amazing. He devoted 20 years of his life, and nobody thought he could get it done. And there were times when problems arose that it seemed almost impossible to get it done. And he either worked through the problems or ignored the problems, if that was the right answer. Like one of the situations is Egypt is, not just technically, is a member of the Ottoman Empire, subservient to the Sultan. Now, the Ottoman Empire is very weak, so they give Egypt a lot of leeway, a lot of wiggle room to act autonomously, but not completely. And to undertake something as big as the canal, he has to go to the Sultan and say, can you sign off on this? Do you give your imprimatur? Do you give your permission? The Sultan never gives the permission. And so whether it's Said or Ismail or those are the two who had to deal with the Sultan Khedives in Egypt. De Lesseps had to pull them down from the ceiling and say, we'll ignore him. We're just going to do it. This is too big, too important. Last month, when we were talking about Zionism, one of the things we said, it was a product of Enlightenment thinking. And that's exactly what this project was too. This was, and de Lesseps says it very, very clearly. He is not doing something to help the power brokers. He's not doing something to make France more powerful. He's a Frenchman. To make France more powerful. He is doing something that is going to change the world and make it better for almost everybody. And he is going to, that the biggest thing that he will, and he sells this to the European public, to the international public. What I am doing is I am building a bridge between the East and the West. Those two parts of our world that seem so far apart, so different in culture, so different in so many ways, but we need to be brought together. And this canal will do that. And the people of Europe responded to that. Yes, that's a great ideal. That's a perfect thing to do. It is not what we expect colonial powers to do. Now, he has all kinds of Enlightenment ideas about what he wants the canal to be. But reality is going to set in. The colonial powers are going to take this over. That's not a surprise. That's what colonial powers do. It takes them 20 years to do it, but they do it. Okay, and beyond that, this is something that almost anybody before doing it would say, it's impossible. Can't do it. Don't even try. And he said, part of Enlightenment thinking, this is a monument to the human capacity to meet whatever obstacles they encounter and overcome them. If they're patient and they're devoted to what they think they need to do, it can get done. And when this is completed in 1869, the world is stunned. And they do a test case with about 5 or 6 large, what would be tankers of that day, going through. And they went through successfully. And the world was just stunned and amazed by it. But if you were looking up at the, when I shared the little outline, as amazing as that story is, the real story is about the politics of the canal, and what is going on there, and the fight for control over the canal, or even to get it done.
Did they pay the laborers for their work?
Oh, you asked good questions there. One of the big scandals, and we're going to go into it in much more detail later, is Egypt had a system called corvée. That's what was written up there, Corvee. It's not slavery.
It's close.
But it's close enough. It's forced labor. And Egypt isn't the only country to have this system. What it gives is the right of the leader, the Khedive in this case, to tell 20,000 peasants, 50,000 peasants, you're leaving your farm behind and you are coming to build a state project, a public project that needs to get done, and you don't have a right to say no. This is a commandment. You will report. Do they get paid? Yes. Do they get fed and housed? Yes. But they're also, whatever they're leaving behind, their crops are they're not going to thrive. They're losing money and gaining money. Who knows how it balances out? It's close enough to slavery. This is, we're going to be talking about the year 1863, when the scandal about the corvée breaks out. What is happening in 1863, just a month before the corvée scandal? Lincoln offers his Emancipation Proclamation. And the world is saying, we're changing. We're getting rid of slavery. And then they look at the canal and say, it smells a little bit like slavery. It's not exactly slavery, but it's too damn close. And so the world is going to get very mad. And hypocrisy is the norm in this world. At the same time, England is going to be one of the major critics because they want the canal to fail. Because they think it's going to benefit France and hurt them. So they start saying, they're using slave labor. These people, how could they dare do this? This is an abomination. This earlier to try and, like a couple of years earlier, in order to undercut and go around the canal, England built a railroad from Cairo to Alexandria, which would benefit the English and hurt the French. And would undermine the need for the canal. They built it with corvée labor. They use the exact same labor force. But now that they're not doing it, it's the French, and we can, but that's how politics is played. As long as whatever the issue is, if you can stain your opponent with it, then you go to it, even if you're guilty of the same kind of behavior. We are probably in the with all the goings on with the Epstein files and controversies. We're going to have Democrats calling Republicans pedophiles, and we're going to have Republicans calling Democrats pedophiles, and whatever the latest name to drop, that's going to be used by the opposition party. That's just the way politics works. And hypocrisy, business as usual. Okay. The first question to ask is, who wants the canal to get built? And who is going to fight against it? Well, we'll start with the Ottomans. The Ottomans don't want the canal to be built. Why? Well, one reason is Russia is on their doorstep, and Russia is threatening expansion and would like to take some of the territory from the continent, from the Ottoman Empire, maybe even occupy Constantinople. The only barrier, the only protection that the Ottomans have, because their military is nothing now. Their financial, economic position is very, very weak. They're dying. The only protection they have is from England, and England is opposed to it. And if England is opposed to it, we're staying on their good side. On the other hand, France is for it, and they need France's help too. So they don't want to be too defiant in how they say it. They want to be a little bit politic, because the time may come when they need Louis Napoleon's help on one of their borders, and so they don't want to offend. Another major reason that they don't want it is they're afraid of Egypt becoming too powerful. Right now, Egypt is subservient to the Sultan. They have a lot of freedom, a lot of autonomy, because the Sultan can't enforce a lot of what his decrees are. He doesn't have the military might to do it anymore. And I also just want to back off for 1 second and say, at one point in history, the Ottoman Empire was the empire. It was the largest, most powerful empire in the Europe-Asian dual continents. But for more than a century, that has changed. And really, if we want to get down to the heart, the nub of why Western Europe surpassed the Ottoman Empire, it's two revolutions. The Industrial Revolution, Western Europe took to it, England in particular, and capitalism. Western Europe got very good at capitalism. That's going to be a part of the story here about how you get control of the canal. You know how capitalism works and you use it to your advantage. And in Constantinople, they were backward in terms of these two things. But in terms of the world of the 19th century, being an industrial power and a capitalist power, I don't know if you need anything else. That's the whole ball of wax. So, at any rate, a question I'm going to get to in probably about 10 minutes is, by normal activity, the Ottoman Empire should have collapsed. And the only reason it stays together is the European imperial powers hold it up. And you have to ask yourself, why would they do that? The answer is going to be very interesting, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay. So in terms of who's for or against the canal, Sultan in Constantinople is against it. Great Britain, probably France and Britain are the two key players. I kind of tend to say the most important player is Great Britain, but that's arguable. Lord Palmerston is the leader of the opposition. If you go back to the world of this starts in the 1850s and is completed in 1869. In that 20-year span, and said, who is the great industrial power in the world? No question. It's not even close. It's Great Britain. They are far and away the great industrial power. And that's what their empire is all about. They're a tiny little island, but what they are doing is having all these colonies, taking their natural resources, turning them into manufactured goods and selling them back at a higher price to the colonies and to the rest of the world. And so they have a really, and so they're the great industrial power. Who is the greatest commercial power in control of international trade? Again, not even close. It's Great Britain. They have the greatest navy. They have the greatest fleets of merchant ships. They occupy a position way up above everybody else. And the only thing Lord Palmerston is interested in is not letting anything happen that can change that balance of power, because the balance in power favors them enormously. Nobody knows what the outcome of the canal building is going to be. And Lord Palmerston doesn't like that uncertainty. It's going to change something. Will it bring us down a notch? Will it bring France up a notch? Will we go up a notch and France will fall? We don't know. And that uncertainty puts your current position, you're the guys on top. You don't want that uncertainty. And therefore, let's not build that canal. That's as simple a way to put it as possible. And that is how Lord Palmerston thought. And he also worried about offending the French Empire under Louis Napoleon. And he knew that France was the biggest supporter of the canal in terms of financing as well as political heft behind them. And so if he was a betting man, he would say the canal will help France more than it will help us. As a matter of fact, we will decline a little bit and they will move up a bit. And how much the margin remains in their favor, don't know. And again, uncertainty is not acceptable. We are on top and we intend to stay on top. He also had the ear of the Sultan. And as I said earlier, one of the main reasons the Sultan will not give Egypt the okay to go on with this is that Palmerston is not whispering, shouting in his ear. Do not back this. Do not give them permission. And then we can be in the paper saying, they're doing this and they're ignoring the Sultan. Again, whatever they need to do to say, to slow it down. And as I mentioned, they also thought, well, if we build a railroad, maybe the canal will no longer be as high a priority for the world. And the railroad, that's our railroad. It will help us. It will help Alexandrian merchants. So we're going to do that. And they do. But unfortunately, they were dealing with a man, Ferdinand de Lesseps, who, whatever the problem or obstacle was, he wasn't going to stop. This was his life work. This was what was, if his life was going to have any meaning, it was, I built the canal. I built the bridge between the East and the West. And you can get in my way, but I'll go around you. I'll go through you. I'll cajole you. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll build together a coalition that will make you change your position, whatever it is. I will do it. And when the Corvée scandal breaks out, they're the leading voice screaming, they're using slave labor. How abominable this is. But again, he's cautious a little bit in what he says publicly because he does not want to offend the French because tensions between France and England are always high. Right now, they're in a relatively peaceful period. And in the 1850s, there's going to be the Crimean War, in which France and England and Great Britain will join together to fight Russia because, a common enemy draws them together and they're both equally afraid of Russian expansionism. It sounds a little bit like the Cold War where, we'll make partnerships with whomever it may be because we're afraid of the Soviet Union expanding further into Eastern Europe, expanding into Southeast Asia, expanding into Africa. We're terrified of that expansion, and anybody who will be our friend in that battle, it doesn't matter if we disagree with them. It doesn't matter if they're terrible dictatorships. They're our friends because we need them in this fight. Okay. Egypt is is obviously the key player here because it's their land. And I didn't put one leader up there. His name is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali opposed the canal. He's very, very, very early in the process. That's why I didn't put him up there. And the reason is he wants to modernize Egypt, but he is afraid of European control. If you you've opened the door a little bit to the Europeans, he's afraid what it will mean. And he is prescient because the next two people, Said and Ismail, open the door wide. And they will lose their country as a result. The end play here of this whole story is Egypt becomes a satellite of Great Britain. And without, when they were, quote, part of the Ottoman Empire, they had a lot of freedom and autonomy. They don't have it with England there. This is going to be very difficult story for Egypt. But the next two, Said and Ismail, what they want is to modernize Egypt, to bring it into the late 19th century, so to speak. But the definition of modernize really in the Egyptians' mind and in the minds of a lot of people in the minds of the Sultan, who also wanted to modernize the empire, meant to westernize, to become just like Europe. And so you're drawn with this dilemma. If you want to modernize, you need European capital. If you invite the Europeans in and take their capital, you may lose freedom.
And that is true.
Yes. Oh, it happens to Egypt here. Egypt will be under British control for 50 years.
Yes.
And so Muhammad Ali was trying to juggle that. The other two said, if we get the canal built, the canal itself will elevate the position of Egypt in the world, and will be able to avoid submitting to colonial controls. We're wrong. But that was their theory. And so they opened up the floodgates to let the French in first and later the British. Okay, I think England, France, the Ottomans, and Egypt. I think we've covered who we need to cover there. The next topic that we need to focus on is this strange anomaly of this empire, the Ottoman Empire, that lacks the finances and the military to be a world power. Lacks the finances and the military to control their own empire. That's why Egypt has so much autonomy. They are called by everyone in Europe the sick man or the dying man of Europe. And they're dying and sick for about a century before they finally collapse at the end of World War I. And then all the two main European powers, France and England, and then Great Britain, go in and divide up that territory amongst themselves, which is where we get the mandates, Palestine mandate, and all the problems we're going to get into in the 20th century with Israel and the Arab states. That comes when the colonial powers pick apart and divide the Ottoman Empire amongst themselves. At any rate, why would they allow the Ottoman Empire to stand? What the Sultan Abdul Aziz knows is, if any of those powers decide they want to come into Constantinople and take it, they can do it. He can't stop them. He does not have the resources. He does not have the military. He does not have the money to sustain any long battles. If they want Constantinople, it's theirs. But what he is able to do is, again, this idea, the balance of power. There is a balance of power there. And while the Sultan is in charge of the Ottoman Empire, there's stability. Would Great Britain love to take off chunks of that empire? Yes, they would. Would France like to? Yes, they would. Would Germany like to? Yes, they would. Would Russia, maybe more than any of them? Yes, they would. What stops them is, if the empire collapses, you don't know what the outcome will be. Who will get the biggest pieces? Who will get the most important pieces? Whose power position will rise? Whose will decline? And everyone, whether it's France, whether it's Great Britain, whether it's Russia, are afraid we don't know how it's going to work out. It could work out in our favor, but it might not. And they're not quite willing to pull that trigger. And so they are either tension amongst themselves, where they're going to say, I'm keeping hands off, you keeping hands off, and you're keeping hands off. We make sure nobody jumps into this. And that is what protects the Ottoman Empire. the powers that have sufficient, again, every one of those nations has the power to take down the Ottomans. But unless they could read the tea leaves and know what the future would be after that collapse, when it collapses, there will be a period of chaos. Then the colonial imperial powers will move in. How will it, when the dust settles, what will it look like? What will Europe look like? What will the new balance of power be? Will it be the same? Will it have altered significantly? Don't know. That's the same tension that surrounds the Suez Canal. What they do know is it might be a colossal failure. Then we can laugh at the French. But if it succeeds, it changes things. It changes the balance of power in terms of commerce. A whole lot of commerce is going to go through there. A whole lot of capacity to get through to India and China and have the trading relationships there will be based on who operates the canal. If France operates it, they can shut Britain out. If England operates it, they can shut France out. Could they have a cooperative, a multinational board to oversee it? Delessep has an idealistic Enlightenment answer to that question. We'd like the company to be like its own little sovereign state, and we'll operate it. We'll have a board from among our shareholders, and we'll operate and run the canal, and that board will be open to listening to what its shareholders say, but we won't be beholden to London or Paris or Berlin. What he said very, very, very specifically is, and this is getting to the financing, is I don't want London paying for this. I don't want Paris paying for this. I don't want the Rothschild banks and the other major European banks paying for it. Because here's what I know, if either London or Paris or the Rothschilds or whomever it might be invests in the Suez Canal, they will very shortly leverage that investment to say, we'd like to have a say in the operation of the canal. And if we develop a controlling interest, we'd like to tell you how to run the canal. And so Delessep says, no, 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 no. And what he does instead is he creates essentially a joint stock company where he says, I am issuing 40,000 shares for purchase by all the small investors who want to invest for 500 francs a share. And I'm not selling it to the Rothschilds, and I'm not selling it to London, to the government in London or to the government in Paris. I want the people to own the canal. And again, it's a great Enlightenment idea.
Doesn't
It ain't necessarily going to work, but it is a great idea.
sounds too good to be true.
Yes. At any rate, he does put out those 40,000 shares, and not all of them get sold. Matter of fact, almost half do not.
Wow.
So this is a project where he is going to be scraping for money every month of the 20 years that he's trying to build this. So it is a significant problem for him. What he will do is he makes a contract with the Egyptian government, with the Khedive Said, and it's a 99-year contract, which is what the colonial powers do throughout the history of the Middle East. When we get, next month, we're not having a history forum because it's too close to Christmas, but in January, we're going to look at the discovery of oil. The same kind of contracts are going to get put together, and the colonial powers will have the final say about how those contracts are organized, who gets what percentage of profit, etc. The only difference between the Suez and the oil contracts of the 20th century are, in the Suez, it was England and France making all the calls. in the 20th century oil contracts, America joins that side too. We will be making contracts too, 99 years in length and all of that, and take garnering most of the profit. Okay.
But
Where
what's
we're,
their, but what's their, if they do that and Egypt or other countries accept that, then it's like there has to be something else there that allows them to accept it. Because if I come in with my team and I'm meeting your team and you're going to offer me this 99-year contract, then my people should be getting or should know how to negotiate and work with that, because my goal too is to come away with something, and I wouldn't think that 99 years would be the one that I would want to do.
I wouldn't either, but
So I'm trying to figure out what is it that this group here is missing or doesn't understand.
yeah, first off, they are autocrats, so this is not a democracy, and they're worrying about what all the people get is not necessarily top of the list. What they are thinking will happen is we don't have the capacity to build the canal.
Okay.
They have the engineering, they have the knowledge, they have all these things, they have the capital, they have a lot of things that they can do.
But we have, what you need basically is this. You can have all that if you want,
right,
but if I have this,
uh-huh.
I mean, I feel like when you go to buy a car, they can have all that you want, but until I sign here, I still have the power.
Yes, you still do. What they are saying, what I think they are saying to themselves is, if we get the canal, the canal will be an engine to bring in enormous amount to let Egypt emerge as a power to be dealt with. That it's on our territory. They're going to want to speak to us, and one of the things that say Vladimir Putin has wanted in his relationship with Trump is to be put on the stage standing side by side with the president, because it increases his prestige. Will this increase the prestige of the Egyptian nation? The Khedives think so.
The truth of the matter is, though, it is in the door mouth of Egypt. It's nearer to Egypt than any other place.
Yep.
And once it's built, that is why NASA was able to nationalize it, because it's right there.
And that's one of
It's
the
in its
problems.
territory.
Yes, when you make 99-year contracts, when you're signing it, you're not thinking about 99 years from today.
Uh-uh.
But at some point, the people, we saw it with the Panama Canal, the same thing
Yes.
happened. The people in
Yes.
Panama said, wait a minute, this is
Okay,
on our
right.
territory.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that will happen, but it's
So
Way
far
down there. Yeah.
down the road
Yes.
and saying, okay, we get this now, we get some money and some other things, we'll kick the can down the road.
And I also want to suggest Egypt, both the Ottoman Empire and Egypt are saying the same thing. They want the same thing. We want to become a modern nation, and we're not. The way to become a modern nation is to imitate what is going on in London and in Paris. They are the modern civilized. I think definition of modernized and westernized are almost identical in this 19th century. And we need them to pull us out of our backward stage and pull us into the current century. And it's worth a price. The price is going to be too terrible is the problem.
Mhm.
Egypt is going to be destroyed. I mean, that is what is going to happen here. And should they have been able to see it? Maybe. But it's.
I mean, but if you're playing chess, because that's what they're doing, they're on this board and they're playing chess. And I'm going to assume that when I come into the room for negotiations and the things that I've done, that I've got to be able to project and see what I can't see further, because that's what it's all, it's,
If you talk to somebody who had a favorable view of the British Empire or the French Empire or whatever it is, let's start with the British because that's what I know more about. What the British imperialist will tell you is every place we visited was better off when we left. We built railroads, we built universities, we organized commerce and finance in ways that they couldn't do because remember the phrase that Rudyard Kipling came up with, the white man's burden.
Mm,
They're just not capable of it. And we have to teach them, we have to almost bring them up the scale of the evolutionary ladder
mhm,
because they are lower than we
Mhm.
are on that scale. And they can't do it. And it is our job as good white Christian men
Mhm.
to help raise them up. And they will tell you, we did well by these people. They didn't. But they will tell you that.
Mhm.
And they will point to monuments like the canal, like the railroads,
Mhm.
whatever it might be that they're like the universities that they built. And that is where they would come down on it. Now, this is going to be multiple stages to bring Egypt to its knees, but it starts with the money. You know, what was the line in all the president's men follow the money?
Yeah.
Always follow the money.
Yeah.
Okay, we're creating this contract. I'm making this contract with you, and here's what I want. All those unsold shares, I want you to buy them up. We need that money. Now, the cost of those shares is like 85 million francs. I don't know what that is in dollars,
Mhm.
but it's more money than you have in your treasury.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you say yes, and you're gonna pay in quotas over time.
Okay. Over
Okay,
time.
all right.
Goodness.
And you're
It's like
hoping-
that 50-year mortgage.
Yes. And remember, this is also happening in the 1860s. What is happening in the 1860s? You have an American Civil War going on.
That's true.
What is one of Egypt's biggest products? Cotton.
Hmm.
American cotton is not being sold around the world. There is a void in the market, and all of a sudden, Egyptian cotton is the craze, and they are making money hand over fist. 1865, that's going to end. But they don't see it as ending. They think it's going to go on forever. So if we keep making all this money from cotton and we pay off this quota and we get the canal, we're going to be in good. But it doesn't work. Okay, so A, you got to buy those. B, you have to provide labor to us
Mm.
at no cost to the company.
Hmm.
Now, remember, it's not slave labor. By definition, they're getting paid, but they're being paid by the Egyptian government and a low wage.
Mhm.
But they are being paid, but they can't say no.
Mhm.
And they're being fed and housed. Okay, so you're buying all the shares, you're providing labor, and the other thing is we want land grants from you
Mm.
all along the isthmus, and that is some of the richest and most fertile land in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that, and we don't have to pay taxes on it, and we don't have any regulations that the government is imposing on us. It's ours to deal with as we want to. Now, you're looking at me like, well, who would ever do that? In the United States, we did that. When we built the railroad, we gave the company in 20-mile
right.
strips lands along the route. 20 miles, 20 square mile patch here, then 20 square mile patch here. And we gave them, I don't know how many acres, but at least thousands and thousands of acres, probably millions, but I don't want to make a number that I don't know. But we gave them a lot of land, and they could sell it to homesteaders or whomever.
Mhm.
And we're doing exactly with the railroad, and that's being built in the 1860s, as DeLessep is demanding in the building of the canal. So it doesn't seem like it's an unacceptable, unheard of way of doing business. Again, there's going to be a twist in here, which is going to make this worse. So right now, if things stay the same, we may be okay. They're not going to stay the same, and that's going to be part of the problem. Now, what will oh, and also, if we run into a problem and there's an unexpected extra expense, you pick it up. We'll pay for what we know is the way we planned it out. But if something happens unexpectedly, you pick up the bill.
Is this because though also they had the history and the background of doing contracts and doing things like this?
Oh.
And they can basically use their expertise in that to say, look,
Honey.
done this before, we will set this up this way.
Yep.
Because we've done this before and you haven't. So if you're not the bright client, but I am, so then I get to
It is inherent in a
incredible.
colonial relationship
Yeah.
that you think that you are superior to that other
That's what it is.
group.
Mhm.
It's just inherent. I mean, that's, if you are superior, then you can make superior judgments.
There's gotta be someone else in the room on the opposite side saying, this don't sound right.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's going to be a military coup because a lot of people agree with you,
Yes.
but the coup is going to be disastrous too. Again, this is not a happy ending for Egypt in any sense, whatever. I'm not holding that back as a surprise ending.
I just find sometimes difficult to wrap my head around people who are on this level, on both sides.
Mhm.
But yet, one side is giving up so much,
Mm.
and they don't see the folly of their ways until, I mean, I look at this country now and looking at some things and saying, we're giving up so much because we don't see the folly of our ways.
Right, but
And
one of the things I was saying earlier was he didn't want the bankers to invest in it because they would leverage their investment, take
yes,
control.
yes.
Well,
It's pretty
that's
much what he's
exactly what we're
doing.
doing, what Delesip is doing with the Egyptians, is
Pretty much what
leveraging
he's doing.
his power here. I can get this done, you can't do it on your own, and therefore you need to give in to me on these things,
Yeah.
or it doesn't happen.
Happen. And they're not willing to hold out to see.
Now, what do they get in exchange? They get international prestige. This is a big deal. People are going to flock to Egypt. Tourists are going to flock to Egypt. Shipping is going to go through there. And when ships go through there, people stop and they eat in your restaurant, whatever it is, all the different, and also they look at you differently. And you learn to play the game the way the game is played out there in the civilized world. And so you are elevating yourself in so many ways, and that's worth some price.
Yeah.
Okay, they're going to also get 15% of the profits. Now, it's on their territory. It should be more than 15%. And they provided all the labor.
Oh my God.
But when we get to next January, when we do the oil, the same kind of contracts are going to get made, and the oil companies, British Petroleum, whoever it might be, was it Anglo-Iranian was the major oil company back then. They're going to say, we have the expertise, we can get the oil out, we can transport it, we have all the stuff. You don't have any of that. We'll do all of that, and you'll get 10 or 15% of
But
the
if I
profit.
have the oil,
Mm.
I'm still one of those people but if I have I mean, because I look at Africa and I go, I mean, I know it's 52 or 54 different countries, but it's like, if you have the
resources
that they want, in the end, I don't care if you have all of that, because you still want what I have. So I have to raise it some, because even though you have all of this, you're nothing until you get my resources.
Well, you're
Unless you're gonna come and, take it from me.
we're talking in 1860.
Oh, that's
If we
true.
go back to 1970s, that's when you get the OPEC
Yes.
embargo, in which they say, hey, we have what you want.
Yeah.
Now
Exactly.
we can make you jump to our tune, but that's going to take
Yeah.
a century.
100 years. Yeah.
And your whole, and your heads, your think like they think. And if you don't really do that,
Right.
then that's very different. And it is difficult sometimes to put your head into someone else's way of thinking if you have no experience or background in it.
One of the great books, I was an English teacher. One of the great books that I've ever read is, and I've mentioned it here many times, is Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. And it was a book that a lot of people were furious at. And they were furious at it in particular for one scene. The main character, Marlowe, is on a boat looking at the shore, seeing all the natives there and all their bangles and whatnot. And he says, I look at them and I see myself. Saying, we are the same. And Rudyard Kipling is kind of saying, wait a minute, white man's burden is because we're not the same. They are not as good as us. They are not up at our level. And he made a simple statement. We're both humans. We're both the same. Differences exist, of course, but essentially we are one and the
Mhm.
same. And that was a truth that he wrote that book in 1900, that a late 19th century, early 20th century Europe could not accept.
Right.
Mhm.
But again, Heart of Darkness brings this up. In the course of about 20-year period from 1880 to 1900, over 18 million Africans were killed by colonial
Mhm.
powers. And you could do that because it didn't matter.
Mhm. Mhm.
They weren't of value.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you see the world that way, then you see the world that way.
Right. Hmm.
Okay.
I have to get that book. I've
It's,
not read
and
it.
it's a short book. It's only like 90 pages, but it's really
We
good.
have it here probably. right?
Probably. He subtitled it for himself, The Rape of Africa.
Mhm.
And the English teacher mode, sorry. His basic theme was Marlowe is a character who goes to Africa expecting to see the best, expecting to see Christian Europe bettering the lives of the Africans and making a profit at the same time. But it's a good deal because we're giving them Christianity, we're giving them Shakespeare, we're giving them all these things that maybe you can't put a monetary value on,
Mhm.
but make them better as human beings. And then we're making a profit. Good for us. But what he goes and sees is slaughter on a scale that was beyond what he could imagine.
Mhm.
And that's the story. To me, that's the story of colonialism. And if I throw one last thing out there, it is if you want to really understand British imperialism, look at what happened in Kenya. I think it is the worst of the worst of the British imperialist experiences, how they treated the people there. But to get back to this, we are now to the point of we need workers to do this. For the first 4 or 5 years, they're not using machinery.
Mm.
It's by hand. It's a shovel to dig 120 miles. And the plan is to do the whole thing that way, which is unthinkable. It's not possible. But the labor supply was from the corvée, and it was essentially paid slave labor, to if we can make an oxymoron out of that. And it becomes a scandal. And it becomes a scandal because of everything is in the context of the time. This is a month after the Emancipation Proclamation. This is just a short period of time after England and some other European nations had outlawed the slave trade. And they were all feeling very good and moral about themselves.
Mhm.
And they could now criticize the others who were doing what they were doing just a very short time ago. And Lord Palmerston is going to be the leader of it. And he is going to defame the French, defame the project as racist, slavery embracing corporation. And he's going to say also, and look at those land grants. That looks like graft to me. That looks like corruption to me. So they're using slave labor, and there is a corrupt, graft-filled corporation.
Mhm.
This thing ought to be shut down. And as much as the public had responded so positively to de Lesseps, those were buzzwords, those were trigger words.
Mm.
And if they're dealing in slave labor and they are corrupt, maybe we ought to pull away our support from them.
Mm.
And that's going to be disastrous for Egypt. Because what happens is Said, S-A-I-D, is the Khedive, the head of Egypt at this point. He is the one who made the contract with de Lesseps.
Mhm.
But he says, gotta renege. Gotta say, we can't do this. World opinion is turning against us. We're in this to build up Egyptian prestige. They don't like us right now.
Mhm.
They think we are slaveholders. They think we are awful, terrible people, and it's destroying us. And also, the land grants, I got to take them back. Because Lord Palmerston is just torpedoing us with
Mm.
with these accusations,
Mhm.
and they do. Now, it turns out to be a blessing in disguise for the canal. Because now they're gonna start to use machinery. But I also want you to understand how difficult this is. This is not the 21st century where you go into a machine tool store and say, I'd like 2 of those and 3 of those. These aren't manufactured. There's no mass production. I have this project. Here's what the project is. Let's design a tool for your project. This will be a standalone, the only one in existence that meets the needs that you have. Okay. They had to invent, design, create over 100 tools as they changed terrains. And you don't just, in 5 seconds, design a tool. You have to engineer, study, what are the problems? What are the possible solutions? Work with a machinist, develop one, see if it works. It doesn't work, go back to the drawing board. They had to do that over 100 times. But it was so much faster that even with those costs and those delays, the canal will now it would not have gotten done on hand labor.
Yet these are the people who built the pyramids.
But who designed the machinery?
Whatchamacallit, DeLessep had a team of engineers
Okay,
who would say, here's what we need, and then they would work with a machinist factory
okay.
and say, here's what we do, can you build this for us? And that's a process, again, it doesn't happen immediately. Okay, now how is this going to turn out to be a disaster for Egypt? Follow the money. Louis Napoleon says to Said, and Louis Napoleon is an emperor, and he's imposing. I mean, not be his uncle, but he's imposing. And that's enough to get you to quiver. He says, you broke the contract. The contract said we get free labor. Now we gotta pay for it.
Oh, because of the machines.
And because we're not using corvée labor anymore.
Right.
So, we may still work with some of the same people. Or different people, doesn't matter, but it's on our account. So you owe us 35 million francs for breaking the contract. We're not through yet. That land that you gave to us and then took back, 30 million francs for that. Sundry other things that you have pulled back on, another 10 million. It adds up to 84 million francs. Egypt doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So Said has to go to the European banks and borrow 100 million francs at 15%. But he has to do it. Otherwise, he's going to be declared insolvent, and then all of a sudden, the vultures will come swooping. So he does it. That just takes care of the momentary problem right in front of you. He still has all these loans that he is trying to repay from buying the shares, etc., and they're earning interest every year. So the next year comes about, and he says, I don't have the money. And so what they say is, you have all those shares. You got to sell them. Now, here's the interesting twist. This is where it turns out differently than most people were expecting. De Lesseps is a Frenchman. The French people were the largest investors in the company. The logical conclusion is they would get first dibs on buying the shares. Benjamin Disraeli is the Prime Minister of England, of Great Britain. The moment he sees what's going on, and remember, England, it was the country that said, no, we don't want the canal. He's got a chance to own the canal. He goes to the Rothschild banks, borrows 4 million francs, buys up all the shares. They are now the controlling interest in the canal. When it is done, when it is built, England will be the great beneficiary, even though they had been the ones trying to torpedo it for 20 years. They don't own it completely. France has a good percentage.
No, France was mad on that one.
Oh, France was assuming they were getting it.
Punched. Yeah, I mean.
Disraeli acted quickly.
Britain.
If you've been to any of my forums, that's
It
one
goes
of my
to-
themes.
yeah, I mean, their ability, I mean, I know they created a lot of havoc and stuff, but their ability to conquer the world on their terms
And they're such a small.
is incredible. I mean, I think what worked against Africa was its terrain. And I think not that people in Africa weren't bright or smart, but it's hard. Africa is so huge, and I think the map that they show doesn't do it justice because it's so huge. How do you get to the interior of the country? How do you get these things and get them out?
But map is a key word here. One of the other themes of European colonialism, and we're going to do a month where we're going to look at the birth of Iraq.
Mm,
Iraq was created by British people drawing lines on a map.
Mhm.
It makes no sense as a country. It contains three warring tribes that don't like each
oh
other.
yeah, and that too.
And that is repeated over and over again in Africa, where you draw lines on a map and say, you're a country now.
Hmm.
They're not compatible. But that nation building is something that nobody has done well. And we've tried it ourselves and it hasn't worked out very well for us. Okay, so they've sold all their shares. That takes care of their present debts. Their debts are still accruing.
Mhm.
Next year, the banks are at their door again and no loans are available to them. What do they have to sell? They own a 15%, they get 15% of the profits annually.
Hmm.
They have to sell that.
Gosh.
At this moment, Egypt has 0% ownership or profiting from the canal. 0%.
Mm.
But we're not through yet.
Oh my God.
Next year comes,
Mm.
they have nothing to sell.
Mm.
They can't get a loan. What are they going to do? England swoops in, or I don't know whether to call them England or Great Britain. I'm so used to saying England. Swoops in and says, we're going to form and you're going to accept an Anglo-Egyptian commission. And what we will do is we will be in charge of Egyptian finances. We will be in every office in your government, and we have veto power, essentially say, that's a good move, do that. No, you can't do that. Control of the finances in Egypt. Oh, we're not through yet. There's another step to this. But right now, they're getting zero from the canal. And Egypt is basically
Out.
running much of their government. When it comes to anything that comes to economics or finances, Egypt is in there saying, you can't manage your finances, so we're going to manage them for you. Okay. With that, Ismail, who was the Khedive, the last Khedive here, is exiled. He leaves and he's replaced by Tawfik, Taufik, or however they pronounce it. And again, it's spelled different ways in different books. He is now the Khedive. In 1882, there's a military coup because the military is angry. You have surrendered everything to the British.
Yeah.
We want to take it back. And the coup is successful. Except Tawfik calls the British and says, you got to help me. You got to come in. They're running through the palace and I don't have any way to defend myself. The British send in troops, quell the coup, stay. They will occupy Egypt. They occupy the Canal Zone. They occupy Cairo. They occupy all of Egypt. And they put the name of Egypt is now a British protectorate.
Protectorate.
In the 1920s, after World War I, we'll call them mandates. It's the same thing. We are running your country. We'll give you as many freedoms as we can, but we are in charge. We talked about the balance of power. England was afraid that this Suez Canal was going to enhance the French position and hurt their own. in point of fact, it enhanced British
Mhm.
positions. And not only that, now that they owned the canal, and the canal was their protected route to
Mhm.
India and Hong Kong and Singapore and their holdings out in Asia, we need to expand our empire to provide buffer zones. So they're going to go into Iran, they're going into Afghanistan, they're going to go into Eastern Europe to put land around the
Mhm.
canal, serving as a buffer to protect it.
Protect it, yeah.
And if you look through all the battles, all the major wars of the 20th century, one of the first things the British will do is they will go to Africa to defend the canal because oil comes through there, because so many things come through there. You're going to have the 1956 Suez crisis because Nasser is going to nationalize, and the British and the French are saying, no, 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 you can't allow him to do that.
But it is.
Yep, and it will be even today, it's a pressure point. It's not as important as it was. One of the realities of technology, now you can have larger tankers than in the day, and they travel the route faster around Africa than they did in the day, carrying more goods, and there are no charges. If you go through the canal, it's faster,
But it's costly.
but it's costly, and it
Yeah.
costs about the same. So if I want to use the canal, I can use it. If I don't want to use it, basically for the same price,
Yeah.
I can get my
yeah.
job done.
Yeah.
But to me, it's two things that I want. I want to praise DeLessep and all the great, incredible engineering things they did.
Oh, because that's a feat. That's
Yes, it is. But the story to me is England comes out on top and Egypt is destroyed. That's the story to me of the Suez Canal. And when you come to 1956 and Nasser, I know we have problems when we were dealing with 1956 and Nasser because we're into the Arab-Israeli conflict period and we take sides. And so we don't like Nasser or whatever position we take. There's politics in our decision as to whether we think he's right to do what he did or not to do what he did. But you can understand it. And in January, we're going to talk about the discovery of oil, and we're going to see it's the same story retold. It is about European
Domination.
Yes, and
Good.
colonialism. With the one difference is that America is also
Part of it.
that boat
Well, I
too.
mean, you just have different ways of looking at the world. I mean, and I think one of the things, and I was gonna ask you if maybe one of these days we can have a little forum where we discuss Ken Burns' American Revolution.
That
That's
would be
on
interesting.
now because just the whole mindset of watching it played out and thinking in one way of history in one way when actuality you don't have the whole story. It's like I never thought of the I never even thought about the German soldiers over here fighting. I don't remember that part in the history class. It's like and that I just don't. It's like and maybe they
Right.
told me that, but I don't remember that. I don't remember it being that bloody. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
remember it being that divisive. I just, when I think of the American Revolution, it's just, they standing down in Independence Hall with their white wigs on, signing and calling it a day.
And there are phrases, the way that Americans treated Tories, who were Americans who sided with the British, is they tarred and feathered them. That sounds comical.
Yeah.
Tarred and feather means you put hot tar on a person's body and then throw the feathers on.
Yeah.
You want to take that hot tar off, you take the skin off with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a funny, it's a painful, you can die.
I mean, I just never thought of, and I never thought of it being that many soldiers, crossing over and come. It was like, gee, could you even get that many soldiers on these boats? I just did not think of it that way until watching it. So I think part of all of this stuff is different ways of looking at things. Surely the Native American Indian did not look at property and land and relationships
Yeah, I
the
think
way
American Indians saw it as a kind of stewardship, not ownership.
Yeah.
And probably in American history's relationship with the Indians, the group that is treated the best in terms of how they dealt with the Indians were the Quakers.
Mm,
But on the other hand, there was what was called the Walking Treaty.
mm.
And they made a deal with the Indians that we want so much land for whatever price we gave them. And it was determined by, in a 24-hour period, how far a man could walk kind of in a
Right.
circle or rectangle, whatever it was, go out and come back, and you could have all that land.
Hmm.
What the Quakers did was they set up relays.
Mm.
I ran as fast as I could for a reasonable amount of time, and I handed it off to you, and you ran as fast as you could. And the result is that walking treaty ended up being a size of
Mhm.
chunk of land.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, because even, I mean, when you look at this whole Suez thing, part of it, I think, is just approaches to negotiations, the history that you have in this type of stuff. And your resources, but also understanding that they didn't understand at the time either, that they still had negotiating power.
Okay, I'm going to suggest a book to you. Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye.
Oh,
It's her
I mean,
first book.
that long ago. I have to
Okay,
go back
read
and
it again.
reread it.
One of the themes to it is one of the worst effects of racism is that the race that is the people who are acted upon begins to believe and kind of osmotically take in the belief that they are inferior.
But I do understand that. I mean, one
Yeah.
of the things I think that I've had to struggle with is, even if I see young Black kids, not to put on them the mindset that other people do. And I have to remind myself, these are kids too.
Yeah.
These are children too. They're just being kids. And what you accept out of that group, you might not accept out of this one.
Yeah.
Even this thing this weekend with Texas A&M and the police officer coming in, and it was almost like the country was reading, people were reading it differently.
Yeah.
And my thing was like, well, if he wanted them to hurry up and get out the tunnel, you don't have to push past somebody to say that. You just say, hey guys, come on out the tunnel.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is this way that we look at things, and it is difficult. And I tell people, sometimes I can't even turn on the TV. What I have to do is, because even if I turn on the TV, the images come through.
Yeah.
So it's not even, I don't even have to wait till I go outside. It's like, as soon as I turn on the TV, here they come, here they come, here
Yeah.
they come.
In terms of the presentation,
read that over
and
again.
mind you, anybody can interrupt at any time, and I talk too much.
Because I'm trying to understand, though, these people giving up so
Yeah.
much. But I
But
mean,
if
I
anybody else
understand
has anything to say,
I understand what you're
jump
saying,
in.
but it's so difficult for them to see all that, and then it's like, golly gee, but guys, you had what they wanted. But I understand it to some degree, but I'm also looking back on it, which is different from being in it.
Yeah, and if you accept that you are in some measures inferior to the people you are negotiating with, to negotiate a level playing field becomes next to impossible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I do understand that. I mean, I do understand, a lot of times I thought about, what's his name's thing, we wear the mask. Because you have to be able to come in and read the room and say, I mean, I remember even in college coming in and saying, let me read this professor first.
Yes.
And let me see where this man is coming from. It might not pay for him to know who I am. Sit back in the room, I don't have to really say anything. I have to read this guy and see, make sure that nothing is held against me that I'm not sure of.
Yes. If anybody has anything to say, we can do that, and if not, we will conclude the meeting.
But I did watch videos and things on it, and Israel is pulling back up their thing to build their canal.
Yes.
That's gonna be interesting.
Well,
As I Googled Suez, that came up.
we learn the things that we learn, and a lot of that overlooks important things. One of the most important elements in the 1967 war was over water. There was one major source of water that went to Israel and to Jordan and Syria, depending which side it fell off. And the Arabs were trying to shut off the valve so Israel wouldn't get it. And Israel was trying to shut off the valve so the Arab nations wouldn't get it. And that was one of the major triggers for the war. And we don't even think about that. We think about anti-Semitism. We think about hatred. We think about, and those are clearly factors,
yeah.
obviously. But it's also basic stuff like the water.
Yeah, it's resources and
Yeah.
control of
Who
control.
has control of the resources? And that is what colonialism, especially British colonialism, is all about, controlling the resources. Their economics, they outlawed America from manufacturing because they wanted us to send them
Mhm.
our
Mhm.
natural resources, and they would send back the finished product.
Finished products.
But we started manufacturing on our own, and they were not happy with us for that.
Yeah. It's an interesting, I can watch it free right now because I don't have PBS Plus. So they're letting people watch it free, but it really is interesting, this whole notion of, controlling the waterways and all of that, so. And maps become very important. I think in our little thing, we do this so much, but it's like, maps are very important. Once in a while, you just need to look on the map,
Yeah.
an actual map, and see where things are situated, where the waters are, how the terrain is, where the mountains are, because all that becomes critical. Even today, it's critical.
Oh, no.
It's why super highways are through urban areas. It's critical.
I need to go because I haven't had my dinner yet.
All right, and I think we have done what we're doing. Thank you all for coming.
Okay, everybody
Thank
have
you,
a great
Michael.
Thanksgiving.
Right, take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, bye now.
I ate before I came. Part of darkness, I'm going to